Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Hey, welcome to this episode of the Note Closer Show. As always, Scott Carson, excited to be here today. Today's episode, I thought I would go through a recent case study on a deal that literally came across my desk in the last 36 hours. I've driven by this property yesterday and thought I would go through the numbers and what we found on this deal because you guys love case studies. And this is a true case studies in kind of my 28-mile backyard, basically. Not here in Austin, a little bit north of an area north of Austin called Georgetown. This is on the north side of Georgetown with a Georgetown address. So, of course, anytime I see anything near where I live in Texas, especially in Austin, I like to go out and drive by because that's where you really learn. Now, I'm also in the process of looking at about 30 other notes that came in on this same spreadsheet all across the country: North Carolina, South Carolina, Alabama, Kansas, St. Louis, Florida, just to name a few. So whenever I see something on a list that says Texas, I like to jump on as best I can, right? And so this was the only one that was showing up on Texas from this list, and it's in my backyard. I was like, why not make it a great case study to do it? Because the numbers kind of make sense on the front end, okay? The numbers make sense based on what the seller is willing to sell it for, because my relationship with the seller and this fund I've been buying from for over a decade, they'll tell me what they're looking for. Hey, here's kind of what we're looking for on this list, or on these individual deals. They won't tell me the price in the full list of assets, but I can ask individually, and they'll give me, okay, here's kind of the color that we're looking at. And the address for this property is on Green Acres. Okay, Green Acres Drive, Green Acres Street. So of course it makes me think of what was the show in the 70s? Green Acres is the place to be. Farm living is the price. There's the life for me. Where it was the Richie husband and wife who moved and bought a farm, and they had a pig with them and stuff like that. So for some of you guys that are the new Generation Z, you won't know what the heck I'm talking about. But before that, you'll remember it. So what's funny, because I talked with a couple investors about this deal, and when I say Green Acres, they automatically start singing. So we'll leave the karaoke to another day, but let's dive into this deal so that you kind of see what we're talking about. You can kind of walk along with me, because I have a video here of the walkthrough, the walk around, so you can kind of see what I'm talking about, and we'll go from there. So first and foremost, this was a list of 48 reverse mortgages. Here's the map. You can see stuff: Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, the one in Texas down here, Alabama, North Carolina, South Carolina. There's a bunch of stuff. And there's kind of the mapping, and they're all over the place. Some are as expensive as like $1 million. Like there's this one over here, it's worth about 700,000 off of Cape Hatteras, out in the middle, the barrier islands there in North Carolina. Probably gonna get washed away the next couple of years. But anyway, so we pull up this one, and here's the picture of the property, right? Now, this is very similar to what or what the Zillow image showed, or the Google Maps image showed. And the thing that always concerns me, it's hard to tell, but the front door was wide open. I hadn't even gone into it, and I pulled up and I see that the front door is wide open. Now, there's supposed to be a lockbox code, and there was a lockbox on the door, but the door was wide open. That always concerns me, obviously. It's just a vacant property with the door wide open. I'm like, uh-oh, it's going to be trashed out inside. It may not be worth it, but let's go and take a look at it. So that gives you a bit of an idea. When I pulled up, the window was busted, which that doesn't really bother me in a vacant property if the window is boarded over. Based on current photos and kind of conditions, I can see it didn't look like it was that bad of a property. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, kind of a weird kind of A-frame to it. But where it was located on the outskirts of Georgetown, I was like, this might not be a bad property. It's on 1/3 of an acre. It's got kind of farmland behind it, and then to the right over it is where it looks like a housing community is going into it. But for the most part, I was like, oh, this is kind of on the outskirts of town. Maybe this is something that a lot of people like there, and you can see a picture from a different side of a different angle. Here behind the trees is this storage. It's not really a garage, but like a storage barn. There wasn't a garage on the property. And it was kind of, like I said, you take a road, it's on the east side of I-35. It's a couple miles north of Georgetown, but it had a Georgetown address. So I was like, oh, that's not so bad. Kind of, there are neighbors around it. The area's a little bit different. A lot of mobile homes, modular homes, some stick-built, some brick homes. It's just no zoning out there. I actually saw one property, a guy bought a single wide and then built a tin building around it where it looked like the tin building had eaten the mobile home. It was kind of an interesting graphic. But A lot of dumping has been taking place out along this area. You could see some stuff. I mean, look, is it the cleanest neighborhoods? No, it's not the cleanest neighborhoods. Is it the worst? Not the worst, but also not the best. So I was like, oh, maybe it's opportunity. So here's another photo loop for the back. This is exactly for me stepping out of the truck and taking a photo of it. So to give you a bit of an idea, it's a reverse mortgage. That means the borrower's passed away. The current unpaid principal balance of the loan is at 166,000, just over that. The last payment was January of 2024. So this has been vacant for about 13 months, give or take a little bit. That's the last payment. That's when basically the borrower passed away. Okay. So that's when they tell me last payment was that, because they hadn't paid. It's a reverse mortgage. Borrower's not entitled or doesn't have to make payments until they pass away. So they either passed away somewhere around the turn of 2024, maybe December of 2023. The legal unpaid balance with rearages and late fees, stuff like that, is 187,000. It's, like I said, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,524 square feet. It was built in 1982. Okay. On a third of an acre. So it's not the biggest of properties, but based on the condition, it seems like it's a lot bigger than a third of an acre. Now, it is semi-rural. Now, the great thing about it is the hedge fund, the seller came back and told me, he's like, yeah, we're looking for about 100 on it. I was like, 100 on it. Okay. Seeing the legals 187. Now, their BPO, one of the great things is I asked, hey, do you have any type of interior inspection report, a BPO that you could share with me? And they did. They sent me their BPO, the exterior BPO. They also showed me an interior inspection. I could see that there's a lot of stuff in the house, not trashed out. I could tell that the roof was in bad shape because there was mold in one of the upstairs bedrooms, and it needs some work. So I know, like, that doesn't really, you change out, you strip down some sheetrock, you put a new roof on. The bones look pretty decent from what I could tell. So we went ahead and looked at it. And so here's the map, which I thought was interesting, because when you look at BPOs, always look at the map and look at where the comps are at. Now, the comps that they value this property at 120,000 is nowhere near the property in red. Okay, so you see I-35 going up there, Gerald, Bartlett, Granger. I mean, this is Georgetown here. This is probably the closest comp, number 3 down here. But the thing is, there's nothing nearby. I mean, so the comps are skewed completely. This could actually be worth a whole lot more than the BPO saying I'm 120. So I reached out to my buddy Boyd, who's a local realtor here, said, hey, can you just do a quick CMA for me? Can you give me a bit of an idea? Here's the address, here's the zip, here's the bed bath, the square footage, the lot. Can you give me an idea of roughly what comps would come back at? And he came back and said, okay, Scott, it's hard to tell, but I could see it actually being worth, if it's in good condition, there are comps in the 295 to 325 range. I'm like, oh, that's a sizable increase over the as-is value of 120. Now, I was like, oh, there's some difference. There's enough room in there if you really want to rehab this property, give or take. But the thing that does concern me is there's no comps nearby. So that comp, I would have loved to see, have him send it to me. He just pulled a quick CMA and didn't email it out to me the location. So I was like, well, we have that number in between the two. Now, another thing that's curious about this deal is the lender told me it goes to foreclosure next Tuesday, right? So today is Wednesday. I got the list on Monday afternoon. I drove by yesterday on Tuesday. And no, wait, I'm sorry. Today is Thursday. I'm sorry. Got the list Tuesday, drove by it yesterday, Wednesday. It goes to foreclosure basically in 4 days, the first Tuesday of the month. All right. First Tuesday of April, it's going. So that could be a quick foreclosure. You buy it at 100, you try to sell it below the 180, hoping that somebody will bid on it at auction as a potential aspect. Okay. So let's do the walkthrough. Let's go through and so you can kind of see my walk around video, kind of see what I'm sharing. I don't know if the audio will pop up for you. I still haven't figured that out. You'd figure that I would know by now how to do that. Okay, so let's share my screen here. All right. Stop share. Hang on here. All right, stop share. Boom. And now let's go and share. Here we go. What's up? Boom. There we go. There we go. Perfect. All right. So let me maximize my screen here. And let's play. So this is me walking up First thing I did, as you can see, you've got some nice outside, but they're building new homes to the right of it. As you can see the photos, there's a lot of junk in this property. You know, where they have all these bedrooms and stuff. You know, I was actually expecting it to be in actually a worse situation. You know, the sheetrock, you can see a bit of mold there coming in from the roof. Roof needs to be redone, obviously. Kind of steep stairs. But these was all bedroom furniture. You even have the grill right there. So walking through this, the AC, HVAC was still there. Here's another bedroom. This is the worst mold damage on it on this one. You can see what's going on through the insulation. You know, just a bunch of just stuff just thrown on top of each other. I mean, like a smorgasbord of old furniture, wood and stuff, like an old old chair in there. You walk to the kitchen. You know, it was outdated, obviously, but the fridge was okay. I mean, it had a lower drop ceiling a little bit there. I probably would knock that out. Cabinets aren't in bad shape. You know, you got an outdoor doors there. You've got some kind of a weird, you can see at the back side there. Not a bad view. You know, older kind of pantry style. And as we walk through the house and go to the stairs, you know, like I said, the stairs were a little steeper, which kind of surprised me. You know, didn't look too bad. I mean, you got obviously you're gonna rip all the sheetrock out if you can and rehab this if you were gonna do that. New carpet would need once you get in here. Yeah, bathroom's okay. Older, outdated. That's what I found interesting was a speaker system in the actual bathroom. You know, it's a different take on a fart fan. Upstairs, other bedroom, you know, didn't look too bad. They're kind of smaller. Yeah, I thought there might be somebody living in it. But nobody, you know, had been squatting or anything like that. Neighbors were not, you know, neighbors are not right next door. Crossover there is not too bad. And going back down, so I'm like, it could be worse. It's just going to take a lot of work. And, you know, new roof these days. I did like the windows there in the living room, but it's kind of smaller. Yeah, that's what they were saying is that it's probably a tear down. You know, yards good size. Looking back there, I'm walking outside. You can kind of see a little bit more stuff there. Obviously, some construction going to the right side. And this is me walking towards the side of the house now, so you can kind of see up the roof. We've got a tarp on it. You know, whole roof would need to be replaced there, basically. Yeah. And then walking to the back of the house, you know, the fence is gone to the right side, but you know, look at the back of it. You don't have a lot of bad views. It's all farmland and a good size, you know, backyard. Now, the thing that, you know, you can see a bunch of dumped trash over behind it there, where there, I don't know, is it concrete? Peach trees. And as you spin around, you see an arbor over there. Kind of really nice. And then look, let's just pause it there. So that deck up there, you know, I went up to it. I didn't crawl onto it. I didn't know how old it would be, but there's no door to the patio. which I found interesting. A two-story deck with no door to it. You have to go up the stairs is the only way to get to the patio, which is okay. Could be worse. But I found that a little bit interesting. But the whole deck would need to basically be ripped out and redone because it just looked like it was pretty rotted. So that's the property. I mean, like, there's some pros, there's some cons to it. But like I said, it's probably more so, what would it take to tear it down? I mean, even this little building over here to the right side, not the garage, but the storage building was just stacked full of wood and stuff in there that it just didn't make any sense in a lot of cases. So if we go back here to the presentation here, let's go back to the PowerPoint. We'll go through some numbers here with you. All right. So walk through the property, kind of see what it is. Now, let's talk about that. What's the possibility? Well, if you could buy this, there's really only two strategies with a reverse mortgage. You buy it and either sell it at the foreclosure or you turn around and rehab. And of course, the ARV based on comps, the CM, the comparative market analysis came in around 295 on the low side. I think it's probably less than that because based on where it's located, the lack of zoning, a little bit more rural, you're probably not going to get so many full priced offers like you would on a house if it was inside of actually Georgetown instead of in the outskirts. Okay. But a full rehab needed. The seller provided a BPO and the inspection report, which showed some photos. The inspection was a little outdated. Of course, the door is wide open in that too. So tried to shut the door, but it wouldn't stay shut. So you could buy this at foreclosure or buy the note at 100 now, and then turn around and at the foreclosure, hopefully it sells for more than 100. 150 might be something to think about. If you put 50K in your pocket, that's a pretty good day if it's sold in a week, in less than a week, right? The thing that concerns me is the rehab side. If you didn't sell it, what would you need to do as far as rehab? And like I said, if you're replacing the roof, replacing the sheetrock, new kitchen, it's a complete, almost a tear down for the most part. It's a lot of work to that. It'd almost be easier to tear it down and bring in a modular home on some sorts like that. Because the lots are about there going to be worth, under 100. So you got to figure out what you're possibly going to get. And I think 295 is way too high a stretch based on walking the property and seeing the neighborhood, stuff like that. But think about it. Could you sell it? Would it sell for 150 at the auction? Maybe. They're hoping to get 100 for it at the auction. So they bought it less than 100. So could you get 124? Probably not. So I don't think you'd be able to sell this at auction because investors driving by would see that it needs a lot of work and you probably end up taking this back. And I don't necessarily want to be in a rehab project this big on the outskirts of town for the most part, because it is going to be harder to get somebody to go out there and roof. It's going to be harder to get somebody to come out and put sheetrock in just because it's on the outskirts of town. I mean, it's not impossible, but this is more so a project for somebody who likes doing heavier rehabs. This is just too heavy a rehab for what I'm focused on. As a note investor, obviously, reverse mortgages, that's the play. Foreclose and sell it at the auction or take it back. But I prefer a much more cosmetic rehab with the cost of things these days. And what does that mean? It's paint carpet for the most part, maybe new appliances. This is basically tear it down to the studs and build it back up and go from there. So this is in my opinion, a no-go on Green Acres. If you know somebody who likes this kind of stuff, hey, feel free to let me know. Do I have some relationships with people that like this kind of stuff? Yeah. If it doesn't sell at the auction in 4 or 5 days, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to reach out because then at that point, it's an REO. I'll know which way it really needs to go and see what they're looking to sell the property if it doesn't sell. Then we might be able to make some magic work versus the unknown of going one way or another. Excuse me. But that's a deal. Is it a good deal? Not for what my normal portfolio is. Can it be a great deal for somebody? Yeah, it can be definitely an opportunity, but it's been vacant for a while. Like I said, the yellow, a kind of angled frame there, not too bad. It needs a lot of TLC out there, and it's just really too much TLC for what I'm wanting to do right now. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, guys. That's the Green Acres case study there for you. A little bit of a walkthrough video. Hopefully the audio didn't sound too bad for you guys. If it didn't, check it out and watch the full video. If you're listening to this episode, thank you so much for always listening, for always watching. We're here to help you take your business to the next level. We're always getting new assets in, so feel free to reach out to us. If you're part of our WC Inquiry monthly membership at $97 a month, you get access to these tapes as they come in, and you have an opportunity to bid on them, ask questions, or have me walk through them with you as well. So go out, take some action, everybody, and we'll see you at the top. Bye, everybody. Hey, real estate investors. My name is Scott Carson. I'm known across the country as the Note Guy. And as somebody who's been a real estate investor living in the Lone Star State for over 20 years now, I often get questions from people looking to invest in Texas, whether they live here in Texas or they live outside of the Lone Star State. Where do we find our distressed leads? Where do we find our foreclosure list? And the number one source is Roddy's List. This list has been around for 20 plus years. George Roddy over here, smiling face, is a friend, and his source for foreclosures on residential or commercial properties, the sheriff's list, the struck-off list, is second to none because it's just focused on Texas. And if you're looking for Texas deals, which is the fastest state to foreclose in, then you definitely want to check out Roddy's List. You can go to Foreclosure Listing Service, is what it's known for, flsonline.com. If you use the code WeCloseNotes, that's right, WeCloseNotes, it'll get you $20 off your order, whether you're ordering a foreclosure list in Dallas County or Harris County or Travis County or Bexar County, whatever county you're looking in or whatever source list you're trying to buy from them, that'll get you $20 off of the price. Can't beat that. It's a great resource. We use it all the time to find distressed notes, banks with bad debt, private investors who are foreclosing, private individuals who are foreclosing on assets, and also potential REOs for us to purchase or our students to buy. So make sure you check it out at flsonline.com. That's flsonline.com. or foreclosure.info as well. But make sure you tell them that Scott sent you. Use the discount code, once again, WeCloseNotes, to get your $20 off. Hey, real estate investors. So you want to dive into the world of note investing, but don't currently have the funds to sign up for an expensive class or a workshop or one-on-one coaching. Well, then you definitely want to check out the biggest bang for your buck in the note world, and that's our WCN membership. It get you an all-you-can-learn access to our class workshop replays, tapes, weekly coaching calls. For $97 a month, it's the biggest bang in the note industry because you get access weekly with me. You can book one-on-one phone calls with me. As we get different tapes in, we'll share them with our members after our one-on-one coaching students get access to us. We share a variety of tools, like I said, replays to the previous workshop, special discount codes to other events that you can take advantage of to help you get more bang out of your dollar every month. We've been investing in notes for over 20 years, and one of my biggest passions is helping note investors, big and small, get started buying notes. Yes, I got started years ago with no money, no savings, and no list, and I love helping people close on their first deal, get their first private funding partner to help them fund more deals and help them both make above average returns. If you're looking for somebody to help you take your note investing from 0 to 60 and want to get started, my WCN membership is a great place to get started. Like I said, we upload lists to it, video training, coaching calls for $97 a month. What can go wrong? The only thing we ask is you hang around for 6 months, and then if you don't like it, you can cancel. But check it out at noteumbrella.com. That's noteumbrella.com. That's our WCN membership. Get looking at assets today. Start putting your fingers on the trigger to pull the trigger on some note deals here before too long. Yes, anybody can buy notes. I don't care your age, your savings, what race, color, whatever it is. Note investing is all about what action you take, and the first action you should take is signing up for our monthly membership at $97 a month. That's noteumbrella.com. You can also access it by going to WeCloseNotes.com and checking on the monthly membership. But we are here to help you. Scott Carson, the Note Guy. We look forward to seeing you at the top.